Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. A 41-year-old man was struck by a vehicle at approximately 3 a.m. Thursday morning on East Shannon Road near College Street. Sulphur Springs police are investigating the accident that led to the death of Kevin Wayne Plunkett of Sulphur Springs. Both Plunkett and the vehicle were headed eastbound on Shannon Road. The driver of the vehicle did stop to render aid at the time of the accident. Sulphur Springs industrial parks are experiencing a flurry of activity as buildings are going up to house new industry locally. Load Trail, known worldwide for the manufacture of trailers and dump trailers, is about 120 days away from opening their 160,000 square foot building in Heritage Business Park in Sulphur Springs. The $7.8 million building will house $10 million in equipment. The company sought no tax abatement. Roger Figley, Executive Director of the Sulphur Springs-Hopkins County Economic Development Corporation, said a lot of people are working to finish the facility in the industrial park located off Loop 301 near Raven Industries. Rain and other factors delayed the start of the building that is being financed by local banks. The metal building is unlike most metal buildings. The Load Trail building will include extra steel due to the building housing assembly lines that will require 9-foot pins under some machines to hold the conveyor that will be utilized in the heavy mechanized operation. Figley stated that shot blast segment of the machine will require a specific 2,600 square foot pin for support. The conveyor will carry the trailer being made from station to station, including welding lines, washing, cleanup, shot blasting, sandblasting, and powder coating ovens. He said the conveyor should make things run faster and smoother. Load Trail hopes to eventually have 2 shifts of workers at the facility. Approximately 150 will be employed at the facility to build their product, which ranges from a 53-foot trailer to flatbeds. Load Trail is the second industry to locate in the park. Amarok Polymer Concrete, the first to locate in Heritage Park, chose Sulphur Springs for their first business expansion of the Nevada-based company. In other industrial news, Dobbins Rods hopes to be in their building and working in September of this year. The company, founded by Gary Dobbins, a champion Bass Pro fisherman who's won over 100 tournaments, plans a grand opening for September. They will begin with 15 to 20 employees and plan growth over time. J.B. Weld is relocating to a business park on the west side of Sulphur Springs near Dobbin Rods. Saputo is making a major expansion along Como Street as they plan use for the old J.B. Weld location.
You may know Tumbleweed Smith from his radio program Sounds of Texas, heard each weekday morning on KSST at 8:30. Continue to listen because you'll hear some local interviews which he is in town and gathering at this time. Tumbleweed is observing his 50th year doing his radio show, Sounds of Texas.
Sulphur Springs is a wonderful, wonderful place. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so impressed with what's going on downtown. Gee whiz. I was there last night late, and it was hopping, man. It was really hopping. Late.
We are something now in our downtown Sulphur Springs area.
Yes, and you do shade real well because I was there a little after 6, and there were people outside eating in the shade.
Isn't it?
And you know, that's a good place to be at 6 o'clock in Sulphur Springs, right?
Well, I'm glad that you love our town and the people in it, because that brings you here a couple of times a year, and you get to interview more interesting people in our area.
You do have a bunch of them here.
We do, don't we?
And you know all of them.
Well,
you know, Enola, I can't believe how many interesting people you know. I mean, you know a bunch of fabulous people.
They are all listeners.
Yeah.
And that's what links us together. And you've done lots of things yourself. I want to talk about you today, if possible, here, because you're celebrating a 50th or observing a 50th anniversary. In what way?
Yeah, my program started August 1st, 1969, and so yesterday began my 50th year with the Sound of Texas. It used to be called Tumbleweed. The show was called Tumbleweed when I started, and it was designed primarily for West Texas radio stations. And after having it for about 6 months, I decided that there weren't enough West Texas radio stations to buy my program. And so I went statewide with it and changed the name of it from Tumbleweed to The Sound of Texas. But people around Big Spring, where I live, had started calling me Tumbleweed because of the radio program.
So that was just a sort of a name that you got pegged with.
Yeah, I was hoeing and weeds in my front yard. We had gravelled the front part of our front yard, and it didn't work out, and some weeds were growing up in it, and some of those weeds were tumbleweeds.
No
and
kidding.
I was tired of doing that, and I ran into the house and I said, Susan, I'm going to start a radio program, and I'm going to call it Tumbleweed. I have been doing feature reports for a long time, and so I got 5 feature reports ready, and I sent it to 65 West Texas radio stations, and one of them bought it. KZZN in Littlefield. Country Cousin, KZZN, Littlefield, bought it. And so I had a network, had a station in Big Spring and a station in Littlefield, man. I was big time. And I was news director for a radio station in Big Spring at the time. And I started August 1st, 1969, and by the end of January 1970, I quit my job to devote full time to the Sound of Texas. And it was kind of an experiment in free enterprise to see if I could make a living doing what I like doing most. And it's still an experiment, and it's working out fine. Thank you.
Well, you have worked out some sort of methods that you go about, such as you come to a town and you find someone. Maybe you start with one person and who they know, and then who they know, and you gather some interviews.
Yeah, I contact with Enola Gay when I come self-restrained, because she knows everybody here, and so she directs me in the right direction. And also I do get emails and phone calls, and I've done 13,000 programs.
Wow.
260 a year times 50 is 13,000. So I can't think of all these wonderful people to interview, and I do look for interesting characters. and
do you think that you kind of attract them?
Why, sure. I try to be like them. I hope some of the characters will rub off on me, because I want to be a character,
Well, you have many interesting talents and endeavors that you've done in your life and are still doing. And the thing I like the most about you, Tumbleweed, is you're always up, positive, laughing, looking for, the next fun thing or the next fun interview.
In that the way you're supposed to
I've never
be.
seen you be down about anything.
Yeah, I've never known anything else, really. I think one of the secrets in life is always having something to look forward to. And I always have something to look forward to every day. I've got 2 or 3 calls coming in right now that I'll take care of, and I'm looking forward to finding out who they're from.
Good. Yes, when Tumbleweed's in town, people tend to, come forward with their interesting people. So we'll put this out if you know somebody that would make a pretty good radio interview, maybe with some sound. The things that they do might have some audio to them.
An example might be somebody who makes whistles out of rattlesnake skulls. Now, that would be an interesting interview.
So you have not had one of these
I've
before?
not had one of those, but
it's on your list.
I was being interviewed on a radio station the other day, and somebody said, well, you're looking for people who do unusual things, like maybe make whistles out of rattlesnake skulls. And I said, do you know somebody like that?
Tell us just a few of your most unusual interviews.
Well, my program is called The Sound of Texas, and I look for interesting, unusual sounds. And one time a dirt dauber was making a nest up in a tin barn, and it had different pipes, in that nest, and every time he would buzz, it can't made a different sound as it passed.
No kidding.
Passed over those different pipes. So that was an interesting sound. But my gosh, well, Hondo Crouch is probably the only real folk hero that I've ever interviewed. He put Luckenbach, Texas on the map and had fun doing it. And of course his sidekick was Ace Reed, probably the best storyteller in Texas. He was a cartoonist. He did the cartoon Cowpokes.
Yes.
And I started my program in '69 when it was at the end of a very interesting and tumultuous decade. All kinds of horrible things happened, and all kinds of very interesting things happened. And the Texas chili culture was just getting started. The Austin music scene was just emerging. And also the Texas Folklife Festival had started in San Antonio. And we had just put a man on the moon, and Texas had something to do with that. We had a Texan in the White House at the time, and the world had started really noticing Texas. And I wanted to explore Texas, especially its spirit and flavor and character and legends and the things that make Texas what it is. And that's what I've been doing for the past 50 years. and it is fascinating. It is. I want to do another 50. I just feel like I'm just starting, I really do. I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface of reporting on Texas. And that's what keeps it going.
Your method of reporting or the equipment that you would use to do this has changed over time.
Oh, yeah.
You started out with the cassette recorder.
Started out reel to reel.
Oh, okay.
Reel to reel, and then switched to cassette, and then digital audio tape, and then mini disc, and now memory cards. So it's difficult to keep up with the medium, and CDs are like over. I mean, I'm not sending out my program on CDs anymore. Mm-hmm. We started doing that, sending it out on, by computer, email, and all that, just a few months ago, really. And it's kind of fun to do that. I save a lot of money on postage.
And the ease of being able to get up to, get the people in their element there with mm-hmm. your way that you record now. It's so compact.
Oh yeah. It's
and clear.
It gets smaller and smaller, yeah. Right, and a better quality, I think. And digital, it stays the same. It loses a generation every time you copy it. Which used to be the situation with tape. But digital, everything stays in the first generation, so that's a good deal.
We better not go over our time because there's an important program that we air at 8:30 weekday mornings, and so we have about 4 more minutes to talk tumbleweed.
Well, fine and dandy. You can do a lot in 4 minutes.
We sure
My
can.
program is 2.5 minutes long. When I started out doing reports for NBC Radio, they wanted 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And so I expanded that to 2.5 minutes. Of course, a lot of that 2.5 minutes is introduction and close. So we got about 20 minutes of that. So actually, the body of my program is about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So
that comes from your
it's packed.
NBC background.
I hope you can tell it's packed.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is very compact.
And I've been with you. You've taken interviews with people, and you may talk 20 minutes, let them talk and ramble. Then when you present the program, it's just
I get
got the
little
meat of
gems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the little goodies from the interview. Yeah,
that's what we get to hear, but you get to hear the whole thing.
Yes, I do. And sometimes the interviews are 2 hours, but I might do 2 or 3 programs.
Yeah.
From that one interview. Yeah.
So you told me you're already now preparing interviews, radio programs for October.
Yes. So I just finished September, and it's just kind of like a magazine or, whatever thing. You're 2 or 3 months ahead of time. And I've got I run into a problem every once in a while trying to keep up with the calendar. Working that far ahead, Yeah, because right now I'm working on October.
Okay. So, if you know someone that Tumbleweed might interview this visit or his next visit, let me know here at KSST, because I always take notes on that when people call in.
Making things out of peach pits. You know, I've interviewed people who do that. Kind of like rattlesnake skull.
Didn't you interview someone with a doorknob collection?
Yeah.
And that had some sound.
Had
to
some sound, you bet. He had a whole bunch of doorknobs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You have, you and Susan, and you have your children, and they have some children, and y'all are just doing great things. Tell me about your kids.
Well, Kevin, my oldest son, is a television director in Dallas, and he's won an Emmy for live sports television production. He puts the picture for all the professional games in Dallas. And Beezy, my young son, he has a recording studio in Oakland, California, and he's won 8 Emmys for music he composed for television. Jackson, my oldest grandson, is in Chicago, and he writes for a magazine conglomerate, and he writes about Tesla and Amazon and Walmart. And he also writes haiku poetry. Haiku poetry. 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. 3-line poetry, Japanese poetry, and he makes money with that. He goes to parties and writes haiku.
So these 3 lines make a stanza, and it's very. You were quoting some to me earlier, and you have some small grandchildren too.
I do. Max and Aiden live in California, and Caleb, who's a tennis player, he lives in Dallas. So I've got 2 15-year-olds and 1 13-year-old and 1 27-year-old. Yeah.
You also love to travel.
Oh, man, I've been to 40 countries, yes. Just back from France, we saw the lavender fields in Provence, which was very high on my list of places I wanted to visit. And I got to do that, and that was real. I mean, that ranks right up there with the Taj Mahal and the Great Wall of China and the Sydney Opera House.
One last thing, where do you want to go next?
Iceland.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that on your next visit through Sulphur Springs. Thank you, Tumbleweed.
I enjoyed it, Enola Gay. Thank you.
Yes.
Here's Don Julian with sports.
Another member of the Wildcats basketball team has received a scholarship offer. Wednesday, St. Edward's University, a private school in Austin, made an offer to Wildcats 6'3" shooting guard Keaston Willis. Willis, an incoming senior, will be playing his 4th year on the varsity this season. In a recent interview, Wildcats basketball coach Clark Cipolletta said schools like Drake, Sam Houston, and Stephen F. Austin have also expressed interest in Willis. As of 11 a.m. Thursday, only about 60 Wildcat football season tickets remained. There are about 20 tickets scattered around in seat-back sections and about 40 tickets, many of them together, in the rail-back section. I talked with Wildcats football season ticket coordinator Lynette King.
So we still have tickets left. There's not very many togethers. We've got ones and ones and ones, in different places. In the chairbacks, in the railback seats, we still have plenty of tickets.
Okay, so you can, if you want to have a family of 7 or something, that's where you need to look.
That's where you will. Now, we've had people that specifically wanted in that section this morning, but the majority of them, of course, have wanted the chairbacks. And we're down to where most of what we have left is just ones here, there, and yonder.
Okay.
They're good seats,
Yeah.
if you don't mind not
Sometimes
sitting.
if you can get them fairly close together.
Yeah, and there are a few that are still relatively close together in some places.
All right, so you're open on Thursday through 5:30.
5:30 today. And
Short
then,
day tomorrow, though.
yes, tomorrow is 8:15 until noon.
Okay.
So if they come after lunch, they're out of luck.
So if they've been pondering this and putting it off, they better get
Come
out
today.
early tomorrow.
Yes, today or tomorrow, that's correct.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.